Good morning, and you're coming in live as the rain starts to pitter-patter on the conservatory roof, so I hope that doesn't get too heavy, otherwise that will be the soundtrack to the entire live. But welcome, my name is Helen Jennings and I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK. And I'm trying to come on a little bit more regularly to do some crafting with you, to give me some structure to my day and to hopefully keep you a little bit entertained as well if you're stuck at home at the moment, or even if you've been out working, keeping the wheels of the world going the best you can, and you've come home and you just need a bit of chill out time. So that's what I'm doing. That's my contribution at the moment. Small as it may be, I'm hopefully helping to keep you crafting. So welcome. And this week we have been playing with the Welcome Easter stamp set, and we've done a variety of things. I'm just looking around for me to see what we've got. We had a lovely little card, and there's a tag somewhere. I did have to unpack my pack because I needed the sequins out of it, but I will rebuild it. But at the moment it's still as a nice cellophane bag with a beautiful tag and some ribbons and things. So that was a beautiful bag before I had to unpack it yesterday to get the sequins out. And we had these little bags yesterday that we created, and we made this lovely box frame that took us a little bit longer than anticipated. I'll try not to be quite so long today, but it was very cute. So we have been very busy with these Welcome Easter goodies this week, and today we plan to continue. So as always, I haven't got any here I've made earlier, but I have got thoughts in my head as to where we are going to go. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a little set of 3 sort of just little note cards, so quite simple little note cards, hopefully. And we're going to be using papers. It's always useful when I get that ping, isn't it? That little ping reminds me that I haven't turned my sound off. There we are. And one of the pings is telling me that I'm going live. That's very useful, isn't it? Apparently Love-a-Duckie is currently live. Well, there's a thing I didn't know. Okay, so we're going to be using some of these papers as well, and colours that coordinate with them. And these papers are these lovely other little creatures. So we're playing with chicks and rabbits and sheep. These are the little toucans and lions and koala bears, and those papers that make up the Birthday Bonanza Designer Series paper. So we're going to be using those sort of nice bright papers, as I say, along with colours that coordinate with them and little bits of card and all those sorts of things. But let's start off by making our basic note cards. Now, these are going to be different slightly depending on where you are in the world. So if you are in the part of the world like we are here that use basic metric measurements, we don't always use metric all the time, but our A4 card is sort of more geared towards the metric. So if you've got the A4 card that is 29.8 one way by 21 centimeters the other, you can make 3 little note cards that are just under 4 inches square, so around about the 10 centimeter sort of mark. They're not quite 10 centimeters square, just under 4 inches. So we can get 3 of these out of this sheet of card. Now I'm sure that you can do equivalents if you're using the letter size card. It would just be about working out what those measurements are, and I haven't had time to look at that and do that for you this morning. But what I've done to create 3 cards out of this sheet is I have divided the length of the card by 3, and it works out at about 9.9 centimeters if you divide this by 3. So in order to get a square card, I need it to be double 9 by 9 centimetres, 9.9 centimetres that way, if you get my drift. So that actually makes it 19.8 centimetres the other way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this piece of card down here so that it is 19.8 centimetres wide. I'm then going to have to swap trimmers because, as I said yesterday, I've lost my trimmer blade, which is very annoying. I think it must have fallen out when I was going to a class because I can't find it anywhere obvious. Right, so I'm actually using the thick Whisper White here. So I'm now going to score this at 9.9 centimetres. So I now have a score line directly down the middle of that piece of card. And then let's go back to our current trimmer. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this at 9.9 centimetres. 9.9 centimetres. So then I have 3 little square cards. Here we go. That will fit very happily into a 4-inch square envelope, which are readily available. They certainly are here. Oh, I've just trapped the microphone wire in my trimmer. Do share these videos out if you're joining us. Do share the love. I know everybody's sort of looking for things to watch and do at the moment, so do that. Do sign up for my newsletter, particularly if you're here in the UK. But it won't matter particularly where you are, because next week I'm going to be doing a newsletter a day with a different project per day. So that's my plan for next week. In fact, that's my plan for today, is to do some designing of projects ready for things that need to go out next week. But back to today. So we have 3 of these little square cards. Now I started off in the mini catalogue, along with that Dress to Impress suite that we were playing with yesterday, that we made the bags with, and that you got the lipsticks and things. You can also get these lovely little mini 3-inch square cards with envelopes that go with them. They're really sweet. So my first thought was, could I use these? But I really wasn't happy with the colour matching for all of them. So these little cards, I say they're really gorgeous. You get a little envelope with each of them, and they've all got just like this watercolour swoosh on them, if you like, for want of a better word. Where's the yellow one? Here it is. So you've got these 3 little cards that have all got like this watercolour swoosh. You've got pretty envelopes that go with them, and you know, obviously you could be whizzing up lots of little note cards really easy with that little pack. So that was my first thought, could we use that? But after lots of wiggling, and you know, I decided that that wasn't going to be possible, but I still wanted to use that as my inspiration. So I have done some cutting here. So I've taken these 3 papers. So on the back here we've got koalas and lions and toucans, but I want the patterns on the other side. So we've got this sort of coastal cabana, Bermuda Bay, spotty triangle, sort of blobs on there. There's this daffodil delight yellow one that's got some sprinkles on, and this grapefruit grove one that's got like these starbursts on. So those are some of the papers that we're going to be using. So I picked out those colours in some cardstock. So I've cut a piece of cardstock for each of these cards. There's a grapefruit grove one, and I've cut the card to 9.5 centimetres. So that's 4 centimetres shorter on each side. So we've got 3 bits of coloured card there. Let's stretch over here and find my snail, and let's stick those on. One. Two. Now is not a good time, is it, for my snail to run out? Let's grab a refill. Take the one out, take that bit of card out, pop the new one in. We're ready to go. Back in action in seconds. Not bad. And there's our grapefruit grove. So we've got our 3 backgrounds. I've also cut 3 pieces of Whisper White, and these are 9 centimetres, so they're coming down 1/2 centimetre for each one. And what's that, about 1/4 inch. And what the other thing I've done is I've already pre-cut 3 of the stitched squares, and we're going to be using those in a minute. But first of all, let's take these 3 pieces of Whisper White. Let's pop our background there, because I wanted to create that sort of watercolour swoosh effect. So I'm going to go to my Love What You Do stamp set, and in the Love What You Do stamp set is this nice big "Hi Karen, love back at you." Yeah, there's this nice big sort of swooshy watercolour blob, for want of a better word, and that is a really nice, easy, quick way of creating that sort of watercolour effect. Now, it is a photopolymer stamp. I'm going to stick it to my block, but I'm going to get a mat, piercing mat, to go underneath it to give us that little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? There we go. See, words have gone again. We had this problem yesterday with words disappearing. Gives us that little bit of cushion. And sometimes you do need that with the photopolymer stamps, particularly when the photopolymer stamp is covering a big area like this one is. Quick slurp of water. No tea this morning. I have had a couple of cups of tea already this morning, so I thought I'd just have a glass of water. So I'm going to ink it up to start with Grapefruit Grove. Let's ink that all up. And this is, of course, one of those colours. It's one of the ink colours, the 2018 to 2020 ink colours. So it's one of the colours that we're going to be saying goodbye to very shortly. There, so we have a nice swoosh. Now it looks like there might be a bit of a hair or a bit of a fluff on there, so I'm just going to clean that stamp up and hopefully remove that. But that's given us our sort of Grapefruit Grove smoosh. Punching out rabbits, oh no. Angie, catch those paws. So we're going to be able to have our smoosh in the background, and we might decide to jiggle that round depending on which way we want it. But we're going to have our stitched on the front. So what we're going to end up with is our background, our Whisper White, our smooshy bit, and our stitch bit on the front. So that's all good so far. So that's the Grapefruit Grove one. Let's do a Daffodil Delight one. And then last but not least, let's go in with a Coastal Cabana one. Great stuff. Right, let's clean that up out of the way. Right, now I'm going to bring in, move my sponge mat for a moment, apologies. And I'm going to bring in our little creatures. And our papers. Because what we're going to do is we're going to stamp directly onto the papers, and because we've got that stitched outline, hopefully it's going to give it, we will see, but give it a sort of a feel of a quilt. That's my thinking. So let's get our block for our creatures, and let's start with the little chick, and I think we're going to do the chick onto this Daffodil Delight paper. I'm going to ink him up with some Memento. Just stamp him down in this corner. Ooh, we have a timber moment going on over there. Let's move those out of the way for a second. I'd buried my snips. There we go. Just going to roughly cut round him for a minute and sit him there. Move that paper out the way, and then we will come in and we will, on this Grapefruit Grove, I think we will go with our rabbit. So there we are, a bit of bunny solidarity with you, Angie. We'll stamp him down here. And then, last but not least, we can't leave him out. We will go for our little sheep. And we'll stamp him down here. The lid on that Memento so we don't rest our hand in it, and let's cut out these little creatures. So rather than colouring them in with pens, or we've looked at different ways of colouring them in, we've used watercolour pencils, we've used stamping blends, we've used ink and watercoloured them over the last few days. But this time I'm using the paper to give them some colour. Just adding that stitching will give it that, hopefully, that sort of feel that it's been quilted, rather than, so it's sort of pretty printed fabric rather than pretty printed paper. He's rather cute, isn't he? Let's put him onto our stitched square. Let's grab the appropriate colour. Now I'm wondering whether to do them bits of an angle. think I'm going to keep the base. It's all right, I'm just fiddling around and having a look. I think I'm going to keep this base piece square and put the top bit on a bit of an angle. No, perhaps we won't. Perhaps we will leave that square as well. Let's find some dimensionals. And pop some of those on the back there. I think I'm going to leave it very clean and simple. I was wondering whether to put some ribbon or something on, but I think actually I'm going to just leave it very clean and simple. So there's a little sheep. I might decide I'm going to actually, I think, just leave them, because they would actually be really cute little cards to give in a pack to sort of a new mum, to give out as thank you cards or those sorts of things. Or even just to have little, would be sweet little birthday cards for younger children or for a quilter friend. So I might leave them for now without any sentiment at all. And just decide on sentiments as and when I decide what they're being used for. As always, when we've been fussy cutting this bunny, he's lost his little curl at the top of his head. We will stamp him in a minute so that he can keep his curl. Cutting around the bottom of his feet. Let's grab our Grapefruit Grove background, our Grapefruit Grove smoosh, and a little quilted little square, stitch square. Give him a little bit of snail on the back there to fit him in. Now, shall we go that way? Shall we this time try that one? That way. We'll quite like it that way. I think we're going to go that way. So, a couple more dimensionals on the back of here. Oh, that's a good idea. Angie, braided burlap trim makes good whiskers for cats and rabbits when pulled apart. Yeah, it's good stuff, isn't it, those, when you start sort of shredding them up a bit and you don't have to just use them as they are. So here comes our little Grapefruit Grove bunny. And last, but by no means least, let's have our little Daffodil Delight chick. Oh, The trains are heralding with their toot in the background that they approve of our little Daffodil Delight chick. There we go. Got everything going on, trains and airplanes and all sorts of things going on out here this morning. I think I have found that I'm taking more notice of noises and things around about me. I think just because we're slowing down a little bit. Round his toes. Sorry, little chick, if that's tickling. There we go. And we have a little yellow chick. He's rather cute. And we'll put him on our final stitch square. Grab our final background. Oh dear. Poor old Div, having to keep going into silent mode. Well, you can pick me up. You can always go back and watch anything that you weren't sure of, that you feel you need the sound. Perhaps putting me in silent mode is by far the best option, really. I'm sure there are members of the family that would quite like that option. Occasionally, please just put her on silent. Right, those are quite cute, aren't they? They'd make quite a nice little gift set. You could do another one each of those. Do a pair of each. Make a pretty little box. They'd be really cute, wouldn't they? So the little chick, little rabbit, and the little sheep with their little swoosh in the background. Very clean and simple, but really quite pretty and effective. And say what a lovely gift that would be for a new mum if she needed to be sending out thank you cards and those sorts of things. Right, so that was the quick and easy one. Let's go for the slightly more complex one now. And again, I've not actually done this in I've not done a here's one I've made earlier, but I was watching, I did see on the Demonstrator Planning Place, which is a Facebook page that is exclusively for demonstrators. So if you're not a demonstrator, you won't be able to access that place with lots of inspiration. If you're not a demonstrator and you'd like to access that place, you know what you've got to do. Grab that starter kit. It's absolute bargain at the moment. But anyway, I was looking on the Demonstrator Planning Place, couldn't resist a bit of a plug there, and a lady called Kayla McCready, I don't know Kayla, but she'd posted a really cute card with the bunny from the Welcome Easter. And I thought, oh, I quite like that. She also gave a shout out. She'd watched a video by Jennifer Maguire. Now, you may well have watched some Jennifer Maguire videos. I certainly have. And she does some quite inspirational stuff. Or sometimes it's just reminding you of things that you forgot that you knew. I don't know about you, but sometimes we need to be reminded, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that technique, or I'd forgotten about doing that. They are cute, aren't they? So thank you, Glenda. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, they are quite cute, those little cards, but really quite simple. You could mass produce those. They'd be quite nice to do with, certainly here, the schools are closing today for who knows how long. If you've got some slightly older children, little children might struggle, but if you'd got some slightly older children, that'd be the sort of thing that you could get out and use up some of your old scrap bits of paper, get them cutting up little rabbits and things and making Easter cards to post through neighbours' doors, particularly if you're on shutdown, but you're still allowed to go out and go for a walk. Well, then make up a whole load of little cards and just go and randomly post them through people's doors, just to say hello, here's a smile. That's one thing we can do, ladies, at the moment. We can do a card send a smile through the post or through the letterbox. Right, I've had to swap my trimmer again because I need to score right down the centre of that piece of card. And so for us, with an A4 piece of card, right down the centre is 10.5 centimetres. And I'm going to cut it in half the other way at 14.9. So now I've got two standard card bases. Now what I'm going to do with these is I am going to cut off, so on the right hand side I am going to cut off a slither. There we go, a slither. That is not a technical term. There are no measurements for the slither, it is just a slither. And on the other one we're going to do exactly the same. Doesn't matter if the slither isn't exactly the same, but it's just another slither, because we're going to make a trifold card. And I don't know that I've made a trifold card this way before, but it made really good sense. So obviously now when you fold them, one side is just slightly shorter than the other, and what we're going to do when we come to sticking this together is we're going to stick those two slightly shorter. So we've got this one is slightly shorter that way, and this one, so if they're both slightly shorter that way, oh, where are you? You're slightly shorter that way. So if both slightly shorter that way, you're going to flip this one round so that that slightly shorter one sits in there. And when you open it up, so I'm getting my head around this, that wants to be that way, and that wants to be that way. So you're putting the two slightly shorter pieces together. So they're going to open up as a trifold card, and we actually want it to come that way, don't we? Think, Helen, think. Think, think, think. Oh dear. What I want it to do is I want it to open up like that to a bit that way, and then yeah, it will open up like that to a bit that way. That's it. Yes. Okay, so we have our trifold card. What I'm going to do with one of these bits of card is I am going to cut an image. I'm going to cut a hole in the front there, and I'm going to cut a hole using this stitched square. It doesn't actually have to be a stitch square, it doesn't matter that it's the stitch square, but just that's the one that's worked out quite nicely with the measurements. So I'm going to put a stitch square in the front of that piece of card. And at this point it doesn't particularly matter where. I want it to be fairly near the top, obviously fairly central. So I would think about there. So we've just got a nice square aperture now in this card, and I've got a nice stitch square there that I'm not going to be using at the moment, but will be useful at some point in the future, I am sure. I'm just going to go So apologies if I wobble you, I'm on a wander. I'm just going to fetch a little bit of crumb cake card. And let's have a look. I've got lots of scrap bits of crumb cake card. And what I want to do is create a little bit of a frame to go around the outside of my aperture. So I'm going to take a scallop square. So obviously I've measured all these up to see which fit, and then that stitched square will sit nicely in the middle there. Now I need those not to move, obviously, because the one die will cut the other one if they overlap. So that is something you want to avoid, but they are sitting quite nicely inside each other. Well, they would be if I moved that bit of tape. So they're sitting quite nicely inside each other. I'm quite happy that once the top's on that, they shouldn't move and shouldn't wiggle. Let's run that through there. We'll come back for good measure. And hopefully we've got a nice little crumb cake frame there. We do also have a nice little stitched crumb cake square. So that can go in there with my Seaside Spray stitched square, because that was the colour of the cardstock that we used initially. So let's bring this back in. So eventually I'm going to stick that little bit of frame round that aperture just there. Fabulous. Right, let's put that to one side for now though, because now we're going to be concentrating on the inside of this card. So let's cut this. I'm going to cut this so that it measures 14.4 centimetres. Obviously you might need to wiggle these measurements to fit your own standard card stock, but hopefully you'll get the general idea. It's just half a centimetre, quarter of an inch ish smaller on each side than your front piece. And I've got two here because one is going to be on the inside of the card there, and the other one is going to be in our back portion just there. Okay. I'm going to pop that back there for a second, because what I want to do is I want to lay this piece of card about where it's going to go eventually. And I'm just going to grab a pencil, well, not a red pencil, that won't do. Let's just have a standard pencil that we're going to then be able to rub out. That looks a bit better. So we'll make sure that that is where we want it to be eventually. Shut that up, and just going to faintly draw a square like that through my window, so that on my card I've got a target for my stamping. So I know that that's what I'm aiming for. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rabbit. I do like the rabbit. He seems to have more than his fair share of fun, but he's not going to be alone. I am going to be using the others. Now, this is going to be our window. So from the front, this is what we're going to be able to see through. So I think I'm just going to have this rabbit peeping about there. There he is. Now, hopefully there should be enough ink on this stamp still for me just to stamp onto this post-it note, because I just need to be able to see my outline. That's absolutely fine. So sticky side at the top of my post-it note, I have stamped my rabbit, because what I want to then do is fairly roughly cut round him. And actually at this stage I don't need to cut round his head. It may be if I was doing something else I might need to come in and cut round his head, but for this one, at this particular moment, I just need to cut round his bottom. I say, do excuse me, Mr. Rabbit. And I'm going to lay that over my rabbit like that. Then I'm going to take my sheep. I'm going to ink him up. And I want to line him up so that this rabbit hopefully will look like he's sitting on the sheep's head. Sorry if my head got in the way there. So I've overlapped a little bit over the top of that rabbit. And hopefully, yes, look at that. When we take away that mask, actually it looks like he's leapfrogging over the sheep, doesn't he? It's rather wonderful. Okay, so let's go in and put in a little bit of detail. Let's give them some let's give them a bit of a grass down here. Let's put in a few little flowers in that meadowy bit. Let's have a bee, but we'll have him flying in just outside of the square, because what I want to be able to see through the square is just literally the top of that rabbit. Everything else hopefully will come into view when you open it up. So there we go. I'm going to leave that, before I rub that out, I'm going to leave that just a minute because I don't want to smudge that ink. And we don't want to leave our little chick out. So we're going to put him on the other piece of card that is going to sit. It's going to have our sentiment on it. And we'll have him just coming in down here. There we go. And perhaps give him a little bit of grass as well. So now we need to get out our, I'm going to use my stamping blends again and do a little bit of colouring in. Let me just get rid of that blob of ink. Let me grab my rubber and let's rub out our box. There we are. And stamping blends. Let's get our box of stamping blends. Let's grab our chair. Put the lid on our memento so we don't lean on it. and have a slurp of water. Right, okay. I'm going to go with some crumb cake for the rabbit, because that will match nicely with the crumb cake frame round the outside of our card front. Might need some light basic black somewhere along the line. Going to need our light smoky slate for our sheep. What colour bow shall we give our sheep? I might actually go with something like, I think I'm going to go so saffron for my, excuse the rustle of the pens and the side as I'm digging through them, looking what colours I want. Looking for the other so saffron. There's the light so saffron. So we might have so saffron for the chick, and I might go with dark so saffron for the sheep's bow to tie that in. Obviously we're going to need, I'm going to go for the light, no, that's not light pumpkin pie. Let's have pumpkin pie for the cheeks, beak and feet. I'm going to get the light pumpkin because I might go light pumpkin pie actually, particularly for the feet. We're going to want something for the grass. Oh, I think we'll have some granny apple green for the grass. And then we've got our little flowers. So I think we will go, what colour flowers shall we have? How about some lovely lipstick flowers? And again, we'll give those some so saffron inners. The only other thing we're possibly going to want is, let's have a light balmy blue so that we can do some around the edge, the sky bits. Okay, I'm going to pop my box down. Hopefully we've got the colours we want now to colour in our little creatures. So let's start with light crumb cake, dark crumb cake. Oh, I've got two light crumb cakes. That's exciting, isn't it? We'll also want the ivory for the ruff. So there we go. When Valerie very helpfully told me that she thinks that the fluffy bit on the front of the rabbit is it's called its ruff. It's not its chest wig. We learn something new every day. Every day is a school day. Well, apart from most children won't be going into school after today, but every day is still a school day. Every day is an opportunity to learn something new. And that was what I learnt yesterday. That is the rabbit's ruff. So let's come in with our squeaky light crumb cake. And we will just work that. And keep working it so they all blend together. I will give him a little bit of, give him a bit of blusher. blend that out as well with this crumb cake. Moving a little bit of white around their eyes just to help highlight those a little bit. Of course, the other thing about blends is don't ever do this on your best dining table, because if you turn over you'll be able to see that ink all soaks in, and that's a really good sign. You need it to be looking like that. That shows that you've worked it nicely. But it would also mark your best oak veneer dining table if you have such a thing. Not quite so worried on my glass mat, but obviously if I'd have been working on a surface that I was a bit more precious about, I can just take some rubbing alcohol or stays-on cleaner to my glass mat. Wouldn't want to do that to my best dining table. My lovely table that I've got that I inherited from my grandmother, that she had French polished. That would not be a good idea. So let's blend that. This is very squeaky, this pen. Do apologise. I hope that's not putting your teeth on edge. Tickle, tickle, little bunny feet. Let's come in with the ivory, do this little ruff. And we'll come in with the dark petal pink. We'll do feet and ears. There he is, one cute little bunny. Let's take the and take light pumpkin pie and add some stripes to that little bee. And somewhere we have the light basic black, so we'll add another stripe in with that. Just going to go in on his wings with the light smoky slate. I've just put a little bit of a blob. I have left some white on that bee for his wings. So there's our little bee. Now we've got our little sheep who is holding up this rabbit, or the rabbit is leaping over. So with this one, I'm just going to go around the outside of his head and his face with the soft, this light smoky slate, just to give that a bit of shading, make him pop. Around his legs. This one, I think I'm going to go back with that light black, and I'm going to give him some light black ears. Gave pink ears yesterday. I'm going to give this one some black ears, and I'm going to give him the light basic black feet. Very cute, isn't he? And we decided I'm going to go dark So Saffron. I'm going to give him a So Saffron bow. And we'll give him a petal pink nose. And again, just go in with that soft petal pink, give him a couple of little bits of cheeks going on. And And we're going to take our dark granny apple green. Now I've stamped this grass, I'm going to go over that. With the dark granny apple green, and I'm going to take the light granny apple green. I'm going to take the brush end, apart from being careful around the flowers. Just going to put down some make sure that we're grounding the sheep so he's not sitting floating mid-air. Have these little flowers sitting in the grass. I'm going to probably transfer to the other end actually, and just come in round these flowers. Much easier with the chisel tip than it is with the brush end. Blend out that grass a little bit so we haven't got those harsh where one finishes and the other starts. There, so they've got some grass they're sitting on, and lovely lipstick we decided we were going to go to with the flowers, didn't we? So I think we're going to go light lovely lipstick. Not going to worry too much about adding shading in and things on these. But lovely lipstick is just such a beautiful, vibrant pink. And obviously another of those colours that we're going to be saying goodbye to very shortly. Colour those in. And let's go dark, so saffron in the centres. Beautiful. And the only other thing I want to do then is take our light balmy blue, and we'll just go around the outside of this rabbit. Give him a bit of sky in the background there. Otherwise it looks a very empty white space. If I come down the edge like this, both sides, stick around that grass just there. Round his ear. Round the rabbit's feet. And a little bit round the bee. Now I'm going to be able to swap then to the other side and do a bit of infilling with the brush end. I don't very often use the brush end on these markers, but this is a good reason to. Covering a larger area in a bit of a quicker time. well, so we'll leave that to might come out a bit more actually, just to incorporate the bee. I think my light balmy blue might be drying up a little bit. What thinks you? And actually the nice thing about sky is that you can afford for it to be a little bit sort of cloudy looking. Okay, now there's our little rabbit in the background, and obviously he's going to then come back in here, and all we're going to see, oh, I'm going to need to come a bit further with that blue, all we're going to see is this little rabbit peeping through the window. Note to self, put a new balmy blue marker on your shopping list. That's it. So now we're just going to have that little rabbit peeking through the hole, and it won't be until you open it up that you see the little sheep. So that's that bit, and then we've just got our little chick that's going to be on our other inside bit. Just going to go around the outside of this with the dark So saffron. And then we'll come in the middle. With the lighter So Saffron and blend that out. His wings. Around his feet. We'll come in with light pumpkin pie at the end. And we'll do his beak. And the comb on his head. And his feet. And again we'll come in with that dark granny apple green. And the light granny apple green. Blend that out a little bit. The harder tip on the bullet end does make this blending process a little bit easier. And I think I'm just going to leave him as he is, because we're going to then have a greeting and things on there. Right, so now the first thing is to stick these two cards together. So those are the two that where we've cut off a little bit of a snip. So we've got our slightly shorter one on this side coming in with our slightly shorter one on that side. Now let's put some, you want something on that that's going to be a fairly robust adhesive. So I'm going to put down some Tombow. I'm going to go too close to the edge because when I press it down and press it out, that will automatically squidge that out. So just by taking those bits of a smidge off, it's just meant that it will all fold together quite nicely without bulging too much. So let's squidge that down like that. And then what we're going to do, we're having it folded so it opens like this. So you've got, when it's folded, it's like that. As you open it up, you've got one thing on there and then you've got another thing in the middle. So obviously this bit here is where we want to stick our rabbit peeping through the window. So let's stick him on there. And we've lined him all up nicely. So we know he's in place. And the other thing we could stick while we're here is we could put his little frame around the outside. So that opens up to reveal the rabbit leaping over the sheep. And then as we open it up again, we'll have our little chick inside. So thank you to Kayla and to Jennifer for the inspiration. So there we go, a little card. Open it up, you've got them both there. Open it up again and you've got your little chick. That's looking quite cute, isn't it? Right, we just need a bit of something on the front here. I have got out some of the to do scalloped linen thread here. So I'm just wondering, what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a length of this and sort of loop it round like that. What I might do is grab some glue dots. Let's have a glue dot there. Let's put another glue dot in the centre here. Where's my lovely pickup tool? I'm going to pick up that glue dot off of there and stick it in there and then squidge that down. So I've got this nice loopy bit, and then also in here I've got some linen thread. I'm getting to the end of my this particular packet of linen thread. But what I think I'll do is I'm going to leave myself a bit of a length on that, but I'm going to tie my linen thread around those 2 loops and pull. Pull and tweak. To try and tie another little bow. My fingers are a little bit sticky. There's that end just there. We'll tie a linen thread bow on the top. Got a bit of a tail there, and then we'll have a bit of a tail coming down there. It would be a fabulous baby card, wouldn't it, Glenda? Hi, Megan. So we'll just have that little bit of a fancy bow thing going on, stuck on the front there. And again, we'll stick that on with glue dots. Now it feels as if that front, I don't want the front to be too busy. It does feel as if it just needs something else, and I can't quite decide what. Or do I leave it really plain? This is where you're going to help me, ladies. Do I put something else on that front, or do I leave it really quite simple? Excellent. I hope you've had something nice, Megan. I actually haven't even had my breakfast yet. As I stood here just now, my tummy grumbled, and I thought, why is my tummy grumbling? I thought, oh, I know why. Yeah, I'm wondering whether to leave that fairly plain like that, so that you get a bit more of a wow factor when you open it up. We could put a sentiment on the front. If we're going to go with a baby card, we could have a welcome to the world. I'm not really sure. That's right. Oh, I think what we could do is, did I put them away? I did at one stage. I was half toying with the idea of having a heart aperture, but the hearts weren't really the right shape for the rabbit that I wanted to have peeping out. They were too long, really. Did I put the hearts away? Because I was thinking the other thing I could do, I know what I'll grab. I'm going to grab, apologies if I wiggle you, I'm going to grab the little dog punch. Not that I'm going to add a dog to it, that would be totally random. Yeah, I think I do want to leave it blank. It just feels as if it just wants. Oh. Well, I like that heart there. Does it want any more? No, just going to put that little heart on there. I like that. Almost looks like a little charm sitting under there, doesn't it? We'll just have a little heart sitting underneath that bow, and then I think we are going to leave it blank. I think we're going to walk away from the card once we've stuck that little heart on. Excellent. There. And we'll just have a greeting inside. So I think we will go for welcome to the world, little one. Let's grab a block. That would be a lovely baby card, wouldn't it? Great stuff. Happy with that. So let's have a little bit of a welcome Easter review. So we've had our lovely little card there that we've just created. We've got our little sort of quilted, stamped and fussy cut from patterned papers with a bit of a swoosh on the background. So those were today's projects. Let's bring that into camera shot for the simple reason that when I come then at the end to add a picture to my video, that one will work beautifully, won't it? So that will go on with everything else that we've done this week. Our box frame from yesterday, our little bag from yesterday, our card from Wednesday that appears just to have wandered. Find that in a minute. So lots and lots of inspiration with this great little stamp set, and although you know it sort of does tend to feel a little bit Easter heavy, if you like, it really doesn't have to be, because you know we have got these little, they'd be lovely little say thank you cards for a little gift set, new babies, just anybody really that likes cute creatures, that would include me. So thank you once again for being with me here this morning. Again, we've gone well over the hour. How rude. But I will be back. I will be back on Monday morning. I'm going to stick with the 9 o'clock slot. I'm making it 9 o'clock across the board. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not necessarily going to come live on Tuesday, because at the moment, Tuesday is always being my nanny day, the day that I catch up with my grandchildren. Obviously, with current circumstances, I don't know whether that is going to be possible, but in case it is possible, I'm going to leave that as a slot that I can do that. But I will do a YouTube video, and I'll have that going up on a Tuesday morning, so that there is somewhere you can go and look for something on a Tuesday morning, so that if you are stuck at home and you are sort of tearing your hair out a little bit, you've got something to come and find at one point in the day. And obviously you can always come back and check up on them again. I'm going to do a weekly review on as a blog post on a Saturday morning. So tomorrow morning my blog will be like a review of all the projects that we've done over the week, with links to the YouTube videos, because I upload all of these to YouTube once we've finished. And then next week I am going to be focusing on that second release celebration stuff. Next week is our last full week of celebration as it stands at the moment. So I'm going to be concentrating on all of those celebration projects. So we'll have a whole host of things to play with on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and indeed Tuesday. And I'm also, if you've signed up for my newsletter, I'm going to be sending out a project a day via my newsletter. Also using those products. Obviously you're going to be able to tweak it to use them with different products, I'm sure, but so next week that's our focus. So I very much look forward to seeing you then. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. Everybody stay well, and everybody stay safe. I will keep posting on the page, obviously, but I look forward to joining you again on Monday.